cool. Check that out. It's still printing.
Yeah.
Almost done.
That's a pretty fast print
Oh.
for something this size.
I was actually kind of surprised by that. So it's really cool. Printing from Windows 8, printing out some toys for the kids,
Yep.
right? So, and what's really funny is we're in here and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in here. And everybody's like, so how long is that going to take, right? And I could see the eyes of everybody thinking, I'm going to snag that off the print bed when it's finished. So I saw you guys. I caught on to that, guys. I understood. Because in my mind, I had dibs on that, but I think everybody else did too. So, yeah, slowly everything here is being passed away. The other cameraman said he'll take the robot. So, I have some spare clothes if anybody wants that. I have other stuff.
No electronics, but...
We're all good, if you want that. So hello again. Thank you for joining us. My name is Pete Brown, a slightly hoarser version of Pete Brown, apparently. And this is Jeff Berthoff.
Hi.
Jeff is HTML guy on the team, and I am XAML guy on the team, and we're both fairly geeky guys into lots of different kind of cool technology, right? So today we've done 3D printing, we've done Bluetooth, we've done USB, we had the cool web app template stuff that you did, we did WebGL. What else did I miss? We did, camera and the microphone and speech. So we've done a lot of very interesting topics today. If you haven't caught them so far, boo on you for actually sleeping if you're like in Europe or something. That's not really, actually, no, Europe is not that. So maybe India is sleeping, China. So if you went to bed or, you had to eat supper or do any of those things, shame on you for having to do that. So definitely, join us for the rest of the stuff. But it'll all be recorded so that you guys can watch it later on. So, please definitely check them out later. Pass them around to your friends, share them. If you are members of Hackerspaces, please, show folks what you can do on Windows, because I think there's some pretty cool stuff here. So what we're going to be talking about next here is Windows Embedded and assigned access. So this is a topic that I really wanted to work into the talk today, not so much because it's necessarily a hobby topic, but it does sort of overlap with certain things in the hobby space, but also because it's just such an important topic that so few people know about. Like, not too many people realize that there is, in fact, a version of Windows 8.1 that is Windows Embedded Industry 8.1. Like, people don't realize that you can have that. I saw a recent article. I haven't confirmed anything it said about it, but it's one of those random things that comes up on Facebook. That's something like 90% of the ATMs out there were still running XP, right? So, and they're running different versions. Some were running retail SKUs, some were using embedded SKUs. The ones that are using embedded SKUs are going to be fined for the stop of support for XP that I think it's moved to July or June or something. Now it was April. It was moved over a little further. So those particular devices are going to be fine if they're running the embedded version. The other ones, the support stops at that point. The embedded ones, I think, have another year or something beyond that to move over to these new technologies. But what Windows Embedded provides you is a version of Windows that you can use on embedded devices, right? But it's Windows 8. The Windows 8.1 version is not the only version that we have. We've had embedded going back to, I think, XP and so. But we also have Windows Embedded Compact, which we'll talk about. And there's also Windows Embedded Handheld, which we'll talk about as well. And I have a couple of the compact devices. Truthfully, the Windows Embedded Industry devices are boring because they look just like a normal tablet. In fact, we showed some off at Build, and they are a normal tablet, but they have a special sleeve that they go in that has like point of sale control in it or something else. It has a card swipe and some other stuff. Oh, sounds like the printer
that's
finished. It's like the cameramen are rushing over here to hurry up and like steal the print. Can we get a quick shot of the finished print there? Very cool. Now it's all white, so not the most exciting toy in terms of color-wise, but that finished, and it's finished surprisingly fast. So during this talk today, we have manufactured something. How many events can you say somebody throughout the course of the day manufactured something while they were here? Not too many people, right? We could have like a basket weaving course or something where we could make baskets or something like that. All right. So let's talk a bit about embedded. So 98% of the computing devices are embedded equipment. A lot of people don't realize that when you think of a PC or you think of a computing device, you're like your phone or my PC or my tablet or whatever it is you're using, you think of that as the computing device. But in fact, 90%, 98% of the devices out there that we would consider computing devices are not retail handheld or otherwise types of PCs or Macs or anything like that. They are embedded devices. So if you go to the doctor's office, if you have kids, you visit the doctor's office fairly often. I think that's probably fair, right? Take a look around inside some of those. And if something bad, something serious happens to your children, and I'm not wishing this on anybody, don't harm your children just to go see cool devices at the hospital. But if there's if you have to go to an emergency room or something like that, then take a look around you. Ignore the child for a second and take a look around you and actually look at all of the different devices that are there, because like the thermometer has like embedded stuff in it. The all the different monitors for stuff, they're all fully embedded. When my wife was pregnant with our first child, I had a lot of time of just sitting in there in the room and listening to things that go ping and all that kind of stuff. And there were plenty of embedded devices in there as well with lots of cool graphics. That's where all your hospital money is going to.
Right. And in other industries as well, like manufacturing, has a huge market for embedded. Just all the different machines and everything that need to run and do one thing and do it really well, run on embedded.
Right. And if you think about a lot of the trade fields, like if you're an electrician or something, you probably have a handheld device that does checks current, checks voltages and stuff. The high-end versions of those are running embedded operating systems. Oscilloscopes, there are versions of oscilloscopes that run Windows, right? So some really cool devices out there. Many of the public displays, many of the kiosks that you interact with on a day-to-day basis, most of the ATMs that you interact with on a day-to-day basis, data capture devices out there, they're actually all running Windows embedded. It doesn't look like Windows. The UIs are completely custom, right? We don't have a logo on there anywhere, and this is part of the point of all this. There's no, taskbar. There are no charms that you swipe in. You can't Alt-Tab at the ATM to try and get other people's money, right? So it's not going to get you to another account. But these are fully embedded devices that are designed to run one app and run it really well and run it very resiliently. So something like 88% of all of the point-of-sale devices out there, so when you go to check out at a cash register, and something like 86% of those handheld point-of-sale devices, those are all run by Windows. So again, when I first heard some of these numbers from the Windows Embedded team, I was shocked, because when you look out there and look at these devices, you don't realize how many of them are actually running our stuff. So it is pretty exciting. And as developers, you start thinking of the market that this provides you for places where you can use your skills. If you're looking at Windows 8.1 embedded industry, you can build apps in HTML and JavaScript for embedded devices, which I think is pretty amazing. You can also do it in C# and XAML. You can do it. You can also run desktop devices, desktop apps for different versions of these as well, or C++. But it really gives you a lot of options for using your skills on these devices. And everybody loves slide decks that include IDC forecasts, so I'm certainly going to throw this in here. I know developers love that as well. But you're looking at 85 million units in just another 2 years here. That is not insignificant for automation. So let's talk first about Windows Embedded Compact. So this is a real-time operating system that works on ARM and x86. And on ARM, it's actually a real-time operating system. So that's really interesting, that if you're looking at device automation, or if you're doing factory control or any of these things, or sensor input and stuff, the fact that something is a real-time operating system can be very important. Whereas if you have a preemptive multitasking system, something like Windows or most of the other stuff that's running out there that are not real-time, you can't guarantee that your app is going to get 100% of the resources and is going to have the right time slices, and for event-based data, or excuse me, for time-based data and time-based controls, and monitoring signals and sending the exact pulses out to motors at the right point at the right time. You can't guarantee that, so you need to have a real-time operating system. So an example of a Windows Embedded Compact device is this one right here. I'll bring this up, see if we can get a shot of this. This looks more like a PC. This is designed for the type of device that you might stick on the back of a television set or a display to be able to use this for like embedded signage or something like that. So this is one Windows Embedded Compact device. I'm not going to crack this one open to show it to you, but I do have another one here. And these are very interesting to me. Let's see if we can get a close-up on that. Good. So this board right here, if you squint, you could probably see that it says NVIDIA on that chip in the middle. All right, so this is a test of my endurance on holding things up in front of a camera here. So we have that board in the middle there is an NVIDIA board. So this is an ARM-based Windows embedded compact device. And what's really interesting is this is the same, if I remember correctly, because I have two of these, I believe this is the same one that's running the same version of the NVIDIA chip that the original Surface RT ran. Right, so you can create, if you want, you can create your own Surface RT from scratch from something like this, and like touch controllers and other stuff. You can write for any of these using the .NET Compact framework, and you can also use XAML and C++. Now it's Silverlight for embedded, but it's a little different from, really these follow sort of a different track from a lot of the other tools. Where the Silverlight for embedded there is XAML, and then you have to load the XAML as resources in C++, and it is based on Silverlight 3 with some additional extensions. But for the most part, for these types of devices, that type of level of Silverlight and level of XAML and stuff in there is sufficient, because these are not, for the most part, devices where you need lots of, like a UI animation and stuff is not something that you're going to do a whole lot of on these. So you can use these for things like RFID scanners, medical devices. I used a Windows embedded compact medical device when I used to check in at, there was a, one of those 24-hour type clinic things that, if you break your arm or something like that, you can go there instead of going to the emergency room. They had a big device that you signed in on, and that was actually running Windows CE, the precursor to Windows Embedded Compact, and it had a big WinForms app that you used to sign in, had pen and all that type of stuff. So Windows Embedded Compact is best if you're looking to create low-power, small, or real-time devices and controllers, right? So that's definitely where to use that. Next, we have Windows Embedded Handheld. I don't have any of those devices here with me, but I do want to talk about this. This is based on the same form factors and controls and stuff as Windows Phone. So if you are, if you think, Jeff, if you go to the, again, I like to use medical as an example because that's sort of what I did for for 4 years, several jobs back. If you go into a hospital and you want somebody who's going to scan like your wrist tag, if you get to the hospital, you get the wrist tag, and they might have a little phone-looking device or something like that, that is a perfect candidate for something that would run Windows Embedded Handheld, because you can completely control the UI. You can lock the app to run, so it runs just that app. You can say whether or not you want any other UI to pop up. You can manage the updates for that. You can do all the types of things that you would expect to do and have it in some sort of a ruggedized form factor. Packaged like UPS guys, when they come up to your door and they have the devices, I haven't seen what the latest ones look like, but those could be Windows Embedded Handheld devices. Again, a little bit higher power than Windows CE. Now, the nice thing with this is you can use all the same skills and all the same tools that you use to code for Windows Phone, you can use to build Windows Embedded Handheld devices. So Matthias was here earlier today. I think he was showing some stuff with Windows Phone 8, right? Mm-hmm. So those same things that he was showing there, you could use to build embedded stuff. So I think that's pretty cool as well. So use Windows Embedded Handheld for any of these types of devices when you're looking at something that is truly handheld. I would recommend using Windows Embedded Compact if you're going to build something real-time. You can use it for handheld stuff, but I think now that we have Windows Embedded Handheld, Compact's actually a little bit better for straight real-time industrial automation and things that are built into low-power devices. Okay. Next, we have Windows Embedded 8.1 Industry, and this is really the flagship on the embedded side. So this is full Windows. This is x86 and 64. It's not ARM. If you want to target ARM, you're going to use Windows Embedded Compact. You're not going to use Windows Embedded Industry at this point. And this, if you're building digital signage or point-of-sale terminals or stuff where, performance is important, like you think about digital signage that you would have when you walk into a hotel and you need to sign in and do some sort of check-in, or you're at the airport. We visit an airport once in a while, right, Jeff? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you do any of those quick check-in things, that is a good example of a place where you might want to use Windows Embedded Industry because it has a touch screen. It needs to be pretty responsive, needs to do several things and do them very well. It needs to be very user-friendly. Use these for ATMs, as many people are. You can also use them for automated manufacturing, et cetera, et cetera. But this really is kind of the premier part of the line. Now, what's interesting is you can run Windows Embedded Industry on pretty much any Windows device that you can load the operating system on. So when you're prototyping solutions, you could prototype them directly in Windows because you know your code's going to port over anyway, or you can pave your device and run Windows Embedded Industry on there, or you can buy an OEM dev board, right? And we're actually working on some different things to that are in those areas that might be pretty exciting. So everything that you can do with Windows 8.1, you can do with Windows Embedded Handheld, plus you can do a number of things that are only available in Windows Embedded Handheld. And a lot of this comes down to the different filters and the locking. So how many people have been to the airport? This is a photo I took. So how many people have been to the airport and they saw a dialogue up on one of the screens? So I'm going to imagine that you're raising your hand right now because obviously I can't see. So actually, the cameraman has seen that. Jeff, have you seen that?
I have, in fact, yes.
You haven't? Or, people love it when you see like a big thing in like Times Square with like a dialogue box half on it. Yeah, those types of things. Those are not good for us, right? And they're not good for the people that have to support these devices. So with Windows Embedded, you have a lot of options for filtering that. You can not only filter which dialogues show up. Like you can say dialogues are not allowed to show up on this device. You can also say if there is a crash of some sort, and you think about like when these are dealing with integration with lots of little devices and sensors, most of the classic BSODs came from device drivers of one sort or another. That, and you have something that's outside, there's a chance you're going to get a blue screen at some point, right? And you don't want that. Having the ability to automatically reboot and recover in those cases is something that you can do with Windows Embedded. You can filter out gestures. You can say which gestures are allowed on the touch screen. You might not want to allow people to swipe into the charms, right? You might want to, not allow people to, swipe to switch apps or any of those types of things. You might not want them to be able to close an app by swiping down. You can control all of those types of filters. You can lock the device so it only supports certain types of USB input and output. That way you don't have somebody coming up with their little, virus-laden key and plugging it into the support USB port on the front of that, which hopefully is locked behind a door anyway, but sometimes you need these things to be accessible. So you can lock all of those types of things out. You can also lock out notifications, right? So not just notifications like there's Twitter running in the background or something and popping up stuff, but any other system-level notifications. So speaking of lockdown, excuse me here. You guys all see I am actually, I did what I was supposed to today, and there is no branding on this water bottle. So thank you everybody for that. And we were warned. I actually was thinking about printing out a thing here that just had water on it and taping it to it, sort of the old Brady Bunch thing, but I just didn't have a chance. So there is a set of tools for locking down. So you can lock down using this lockdown baseline tool, which will let you decide on the branding on the device, let you lock down all these different features. It's a tool that enables you to really kind of customize the install of the operating system. And then there's the Embedded Lockdown Manager, which you can use remotely if you want. You can use enumerate stuff with WMI. There's, again, lots and lots of control with these different tools to be able to customize the operating system to only show the things that you want to show. There's also embedded login, that enables you to when the machine boots up, have it automatically boot up in that app. You can decide on the types of inputs, the name of Windows, what actually shows up, what the logo is that shows up, status messages, all those types of things are all things that you can control through these different tools. So some of you are probably asking, Pete, how does this compare to this kiosk mode? So Jeff, are you asking that?
I'm asking, Pete. How does this compare to kiosk mode? Why,
thank you, Jeff. That was perfect. Thank you. Actually, I put this in here because you specifically had said, hey, Pete, how does this compare to kiosk mode? And I wanted to make sure that we covered that as part of today's discussion. So informally, folks refer to assigned access mode in Windows 8.1 as kiosk mode. And assigned access mode is something that if you go into Windows and you go onto the accounts page, you can say, I can create an account.
A local account.
I can create a local account, and I can say that this is an assigned access account, and you can pick a single app that account is allowed to run. Now, there's still some ways to get around that. I think if you tap the Windows button 3 times, or I forget the exact the way to get out of that app on there, because otherwise this would be a great prank to pull on people everywhere. Just start, locking all their machines to run like some really annoying app that just sings, one of those 10-hour YouTube reels of the guy yodeling or something like that. So that might be really kind of obnoxious thing to do. And I have a feeling I know what my PC is going to look like tomorrow, by the way Jeff's smiling. But the difference is in Windows Embedded, you are able to not only lock down to a single app, you can lock down to a group of apps, or you can lock down to a desktop app, because desktop apps still matter, especially in the embedded world, where you need to be able to have really great device integration and other stuff there. So you can, in kiosk mode here, or excuse me, assigned access mode, single user, single modern app, predefined set of filters, and actually I see here at the bottom, press the Windows key 5 times to break out. So that proof that I was not looking at the slides while I was speaking here. It'll also suppress the toast and a bunch and hardware buttons and other stuff. So where would I use something like this? So I've been to like different things like maker fairs and stuff like that, where cashiers and stuff or people walking around will have a tablet with them, but it's just really that app that they're working on there. But it's these are not big enough events or big enough user bases or happen often enough that you could really justify getting a Windows embedded device and always running just that Windows embedded stuff on there. So instead, what they could do is they could take a tablet, lock it to a single app for the duration of that, and that really reduces the complexity and training for the people who are doing, going around taking a survey or whatever it is that they're doing on that device. So that's where I would use something like that. So use Windows Client assigned access when you're able to live within those limitations. Boot to a single Windows Store app, and it has to be a modern Windows app there as well. Windows Embedded, again, is going to give you much deeper lockdown capabilities. It has all the different hardware filters, the dialog filters. If you are building any sort of device that's going to sit out in the public unattended, absolutely use something like Windows Embedded. I would even recommend that people who build, like, say, testing machines, like for people who go in for testing and they have PCs there and they have a proxy, that actually would be a good place to use something like Windows Embedded, because it requires that much less monitoring if you want to make sure people are only doing the testing on that particular device and they're not running other kind of random apps. You can customize it. You can use Win32 apps as well. Again, lots and lots of control on that. And again, much more for these true embedded scenarios. And what's really funny is there's an icon, which my picture is over at the moment, so let's hide me for a second. There's an icon up here, and when I got these icons from the Windows Embedded team, when they helped me build some of these decks here, I said, what's the Death Star with the clouds in front of it? Right? Because I was trying to figure out what the heck that was, until they pointed out, no, that's an MRI and somebody going into an MRI, right?
I see it now.
I thought that was a Death Star with clouds in front of it. I was thinking that's very picturesque to have the Death Star with clouds in front of it.
So you're saying the Death Star did not run on Windows Embedded?
The Death Star was probably not a Windows Embedded device.
Full Windows then, I'm sure.
Yes, full Windows at least, right? That's why it crashed in the end, right?
I guess.
Hey, it's an embedded device, guys. Oh, I'm getting the boos from the back of the room. Use Windows Embedded for embedded devices. Don't use retail Windows for embedded devices. Yeah, and you know what? Of all the things here, that's going to be the one part that gets quoted, and it's going to make its way back to my boss. So, all right. We already covered some of this guidance here, but I want to make sure that folks had access to this slide. When I talk to the Windows Embedded team, this is their official guidance that they've also worked out with Windows on when to use which I think is probably the single most useful slide in this whole deck. So if you're looking for how to position the two and when to use which in your own projects, definitely look at that. So Windows Embedded Industry, that's the top of the line Windows Embedded stuff. It is based on Windows. Everything you can do in Windows, you can do on Windows Embedded. And it is really appropriate for a lot of these different scenarios, digital signage, kiosks, etc. Use Windows Embedded Handheld for places where you might normally use a phone, but you want something that is a little more rugged or has a little more lockdown capability. Definitely use that. And then use Windows Embedded Compact when you want some of the real-time capabilities and some of the integrated stuff and device automation, etc. Right? So there are a couple more links here. Further reading, you'll see this stuff all when you download the slides. I'm not going to ask you to copy that down real quickly. And there are also a number of videos that are available. There's Windows Embedded on YouTube, of course, and then there's Assigned Access and Windows Embedded there as well. So great. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed what was a brief and interesting section on Windows Embedded. Thank you so much for your contribution, Jeff, for that. So,
glad I could be here to help.
Unfortunately, this was not a session where you have demos, sort of showing a couple of things off here. But I think if folks take away anything from this, it's that we in fact do have an embedded version of all of our operating systems, and that is really the appropriate thing to look at when you're building these embedded devices. So, great. And then speaking of embedded stuff, the next section that's going to be coming up, we're going to be doing some point of service, which can be embedded or can also be straight Windows. So that'll be very exciting. So see you shortly.